Hello fellow humans, this is Adam and this is the ultimate test for Blender 4.4. I have three machines in front of me. MacBook Pro 16-inch with the M1 Max with 64GB of RAM, 8TB of storage. Also the 32-core GPU with the 10-core CPUs. And here I have the M4 MacBook Air, the base model with 16GB of RAM, or Apple like to call it the unified memory, even though I am not a huge fan of that name. And also the 8-core GPU and then the 10-core CPU. So we have that. And here we have a Windows machine, and that Windows machine has 64GB of RAM, 8TB of storage, 3070 Ti, and in terms of the CPU we have an Intel Core i9 12900H. We have a plethora of options and we have 4 projects that we will be testing, and all of those tests will be using the GPU, and then we will be doing all of those through both cycles and then Eevee as well in terms of Blender. So the first project we are going to do is going to be the good old junk shop, and we will only do one frame and we will be using the GPU. Now using the GPU does not mean that it will not use the CPU, but the focus will be on the GPU. So we have cycles, the future set is supported, and then the devices, the GPU compute on both of the Macs, and then on the Windows machine we have cycles supported and it's defaulted to GPU compute. Anyway, so we will go ahead and render one frame right here. So that would be the first frame here, and then the second frame here, the last frame here. Let's see how much time we will get. So this one it's rendering, this one it's rendering, and this one it's rendering. Honestly, I am very excited to see what would the results be, so we will see. So here we have 23 seconds. Here we have 20 seconds. The M4 is faster than the M1 Max by 3 seconds? Interesting. And then the Windows machine is still running. Why the Windows machine is taking quite some time? The kernel should be built, so that's not an issue. After this is over, I will do the test again, and if we get a similar number, that would be wild. The Windows machine is taking more than it should, or maybe that is actually the expected result for the Windows machine. So the Windows machine took 1 minute and 29 seconds. I am not convinced with that result, so I will close. Maybe the kernel needed to be built again, and I will close here and I will close here, and I'm gonna do render here, render here, render here as well, and we will see what results we get this time. Because even if the Windows machine wanted the kernel to be built, after this run the kernel should have been built. So here we have 23 seconds, same time, so that's expected. Here it took 20 seconds, so this is actually faster than that. That is wild. And the Windows machine is just still at 46 seconds. And it's saying that it uses the optimized kernel. That means the kernel has been optimized already. I'm genuinely surprised. I thought the Windows machine honestly will smoke both of these, and it will just like take a couple of seconds or whatever that might be. I'm gonna run it again. And then, by the way, it's not like I have it on silent mode or whatever that might be in terms of Razer. I do have it on the automatic mode, so it will get to decide how much power it's pulling, and each device is connected to the power, so it's not like this is on battery. And I made sure to turn off the internal graphic card, so it will only uses the external graphic card, and the whole laptop is set to performance mode, so it should give me the best that it can. Honestly, I'm going to run it one more time. I'm going to close, I'm gonna open it again, and I am going to do one more render. So that would be the third. So here, here, and then here. Here it's saying the remaining is 1 minute, so it's still stuck to the 1 minute. Razer Blade 15 with 3070 Ti and then 64GB. This is taking 20 seconds, and this took 23 seconds. Like, the numbers are consistent on the Mac. 23 seconds here, which is which is wild, and here 20 seconds. The fastest machine is the M4. Wow. And this is still taking. I'm going to restart the Windows machine and do it one more time, because I'm like, the Windows machine needs to do better than this. Because you know what, I don't know. Like, I am, as the cool kids like to say, baffled by the results. This is, wow. So what I am doing right now is making sure all the updates on the Windows machine are installed, and also I want to update the graphic card from the NVIDIA GeForce as well, so we can be good to go. So what I am doing right now, I removed the old driver and I am installing the newest driver that is there, because it was saying it was on the most recent version, but I am getting the most recent version by removing the old one and then reinstalling the driver again, and we will see if we will get the same results or not. Okay, so as you can see, we have the graphic driver as 5.7.8 3, and that is the most recent. I will restart the machine and then do the test again. This time I made sure the device is on performance mode. I went into Razer Synapse and made everything into high and boost or whatever. I literally maxed out everything, and I'm gonna give it one grace render in case with the new graphic card maybe it needs to shade or anything, or maybe it needs to compile the kernel or whatever that might be. So I will give it one run of a grace, and the machine has been restarted. Everything else is closed. What? I don't know. Like, does it need a massage or something? I don't know. I am genuinely shocked with how good the M4 MacBook Air is, and it making me wonder what the M4 Max would actually be like. And I don't know if I should change my M1 Max to the M4 Max, or maybe just get the MacBook Air and call it a day. I mainly use Maya, and when I did the test for Maya on the M4 MacBook Air, I forgot that I was recording a video, and I just went in and I was modeling, and it did not even give me any hiccups and whatnot. It was wonderful. My only gripe is that the maximum storage that you can go to is 2 terabytes. I wish they have at least 4 terabytes option. Maybe with a 4 terabytes option, like, I can swallow that, because here I have 8 terabytes and I like to have my storage. I hate external storage, so I just want my storage to be on the device itself. For the grace run, we got 1 minute and 19 seconds now, and I will go to the MacBook Air M4 and do a run, and I will go to the M1 Max and then a render and then do a run, and we will see what results we are getting. If we get the same results, I'm just gonna stick with these results and move on, because there's only so much that you can do. So here are the results. Here we got to 23 seconds, as usual, nothing changed. Here we got 21 seconds, so just this 1 second delay, which is fine. Here, like, it's at 49 seconds and it's still rendering. Literally my voice is breaking because I came in thinking, by the way, I love Mac, but I came in with the mindset that the Windows machine, the Razer Blade 15, which is probably the most expensive machine here, it's just gonna smoke everything else. Like, it's going to be the best and nothing else will compare to it. Because a lot of people say, oh, Windows machines are for real professionals, and Mac, you really can't do anything with it. The Mac is not for professionals. It's like a toy. The performance is bad. Well, the numbers are speaking for themselves. This M4 MacBook Air is smoking the M1 Max. This machine cost closer to $6,000 or $8,000 because everything is maxed out. This machine only cost $1,000, and if you are a student, you can get it for $900. And this machine cost about $6,000, 64 gigabyte of RAM, 3070 Ti. It does not run on battery. It always has to be connected in order to get your performance, and it's still struggling. And it got 1 minute and 18 seconds. At this point, this is just sad. Windows is sad. Okay, I guess we're moving on to the next test. For the kicks and giggles, I am having Windows run one more time, but this time with the CPU instead of the GPU, just to see if that makes any difference. I'm trying so hard to give Windows a fair fight. And this is me, the computer architect, speaking. When you have an SoC where everything is combined and you are optimizing for that SoC where it does not have a lot of variations, it doesn't have so many variables to deal with, you can optimize to the T. Because whether we are talking about the M4 or the M1, you only have like 4 SKUs or 3 SKUs that you need to optimize for. And then after you optimize for that, you are good to go. Yet in terms of Windows, you have Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, and then you need to optimize for so many combinations where sometimes you lose the plot in this whole process. But when you have all of your SKUs and then you optimize for the SKUs, you start getting these results that we are seeing right now. So with the CPU, we got 2 minutes here. There is nothing that we can do at this point. So with the 4.0, or aka the artwork by Gakko Tada, which is the bike, we are going to render 1 frame. Now, on the M4 MacBook Air, when I use cycles for that, it gives me an issue. So I am going to have it run first with cycles, and I will see if the M1 Max would give me the issue. So the issue I talked about in another video, where as you can see some of the stuff does not render, I want to see if I would have the same issue with the M1 Max and also with the Windows machine. Now the Windows machine have a chance to redeem itself here and maybe show us that regardless it's actually gonna work just fine. Well, the issue is actually present on Windows, and it's present on the M4 MacBook, and the M1 Max is taking a bit more time. I think the M1 Max will take more time just because this project probably needs to render the kernel, perhaps, so we will see. So this is finished, and this took 1 minute and 19 seconds. And remember, this one only took 33 seconds. And the Windows machine is 2 minutes in and is still working, and it's doing whatever it needs to do. At this point, I don't know if I should keep going and taking the Windows into account, because it's literally delaying me from finishing this video at this point. And while the pretty Windows taking its time in order to catch up, I want to talk about something. Some of you might say, well, this is actually an older machine from 2022. Yes, it's an older machine from 2022. This machine right here is 4 years old from 2021. So at least this needs to be that, because in 2022 when this was purchased, that was like the high-end model, and with the OLED display and all the bells and whistles, and the internet was going crazy about how good the Razer Blade is. Now, the Razer Blade is not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. In comparison to what we have, it's bad. Like, especially in comparison to the M4, this is not even a fair fight. In any case, here we have 1 minute and 19 seconds, 33 seconds, and this is still rendering as of now. So the Windows machine is over. The Windows machine, it took 4 minutes and 4 seconds. For MacBook Air took 33 seconds, and then the M1 Max took 1 minute and 19 seconds. The M4 MacBook Air is smoking both of these machines. I feel sorry for myself that I spent that amount of money on those two machines. And then this, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do some testing with it and then see whether it's worth keeping or not. Now I am debating myself, maybe that's just going to be my main machine. I don't know. In any case, the issue that I was talking about, that I thought it might only be related to M4, and that is when rendering, as you can see the background is black, seems that is a cycles thingy. So now I'm going to try it with the Eevee. So the same project which is meant for the Eevee. So here on the M1 Max we have the Eevee and then render, and then here on the M4 MacBook Air we have the Eevee and then render as well, and here on the Windows machine we're gonna go to Eevee and then render as well, and let's see what we are getting in terms of results this time. I have a feeling the Windows machine probably it's gonna take 2 to 3 days, so maybe I will finish my work here and all my testing, and I will just leave the Windows machine do its thing, because this is bizarre. Now a reminder, as you can see, whether it's the M1 Max or the M4 or the Windows machine, there is nothing showing, and you don't know whether it's stopped working or it's actually working. It's actually rendering, and you don't have to worry about that. Speaking of which, the MacBook Air M4 finished before those two. And sorry, I cannot speak because I am genuinely shocked. I did not do like this test before recording. I just went in and did the test. Here we have 44 seconds. Here we have 1 minute and 12 seconds. And the Windows machine probably is gonna take 2 days. I am so shocked with how good the M4 MacBook Air, especially with the Blender. Like, I know Apple donated a lot of money to Blender for them to do the optimization for the M chips. However, this is, at this point, it's a joke. The artwork. Oh, finally! Windows! Hello! Dude, thank you for actually finishing the job. Oh boy, let's see. So how much? Windows, tell me. Windows took 2 minutes and 11 seconds. The M4 MacBook Air took 44 seconds. This is 2 minutes and 11 seconds. This is 44 seconds. And this is 1 minute and 12 seconds. The M4 MacBook Air is smoking 2 machines that cost almost as much as a car. Magnificent. Magnificent. This, honestly, kudos to Apple. Kudos to the engineers who worked on this. This level, wow. Well, okay, let's move on, I guess. So this is the third project we are rendering here, and then we are rendering on the M4 MacBook Air, and then we are rendering on the M1 Max as well, and we will see what we get. The best way to go about it. This project represent architecture and people who want to work with interior design and architecture. That's what this represents. In terms of the first project, it's just the junk shop, which is something that everyone tests, and then the second one was in regard to the animation, and then Grace Pencil 3 with a Blender from Kakotada, and then this one is more in relation to interior design, which I do a lot of actually interior design myself. Now granted, I do not use a Blender, I use Maya when I am doing, let's say, kitchens or bathrooms or whatever that might be. As far as what I am seeing, the M1 Max is saying the remaining time is 10 minutes, and the M4 MacBook Air saying the remaining time is 6 minutes, and then the Windows machine saying the remaining time is 40 minutes. So 40 minutes for this to be done. Honestly, if this took 40 minutes to be done, I'm just gonna stop doing the test on the Windows machine and just call it a day. What has happened in 4 generations of M1 chips or M chips in general for the M1 Max not to be able to keep up with a basic M4 MacBook Air? I just want to know what type of optimization went in and what was going on. The next video after this will be M1 Max and then M4 head-to-head in a more in-depth comparison, because I want to see what's going on. I'm going to have everything matching between the two devices, and I will start doing some testing and see what we get in terms of results. And now after some time has passed, the M1 Max is telling me there is 3 minutes left. The M4 MacBook Air is about to be done and saying there is only 7 seconds left. And then the Windows machine is telling me there is 35 minutes left. I will let the Windows machine do its thing. I will not do any new testing or whatever. Just leave it be to catch up. And wow, the M4 MacBook Air is done before these two as well. I genuinely thought for the interior design, just because of how complex usually it is, and you have a lot of lighting, and sometimes that lighting need to be set up in a, you know, in a certain way, and even sometimes some people they use dynamic lighting. They do not bake the light in just so they can have a better experience when they are showcasing an interior design. And even with that, the machine that has the capability for ray tracing and all of that, it's still slower than this machine that doesn't even have a fan. We are looking at 9 minutes and 14 seconds for the M4 MacBook Air to be done before those two machines. This machine is saying there is 2 minutes left, and the Windows machine is telling me there is 33 minutes left. At this point, I'm just gonna leave the Windows do its thing, and I will wait for the M1 Max, and then we will go to the final test. The M1 Max is done, and it took 12 minutes and 21 seconds. The M4 MacBook Air took 9 minutes and 14 seconds. So there is difference between those two machines, and there is still more than half an hour left for the Windows machine. I'm just gonna leave the Windows machine, let it do its thing. That's for Razer and Windows to figure out. So this is the last test, and I only did one frame, and that is for the House of Chores. So for the M1 Max, it took 9 seconds, and the M4 it took only 4 seconds. However, I will do the test again, and I will go to passes and actually enable the pass combined and the Z pass, and then just do the test again. And then that test is actually using Eevee, and then here I will go ahead to passes and then enable the combined passes and then the Z passes again. With Eevee, we are going to do one more render. With the passes open, here we got 1 second, and here we got 1 second as well. So what I am going to do, since we have the passes in place, I will render the whole animation. So we will go ahead and then we will say render animation, and then we will go ahead and render animation here. So we will see which one would be better. And I think the average in terms of finishing the frames, probably the M1 Max would be better just because it has more RAM. This is one of the scenarios, especially since I do animations on Maya, this is one of the scenarios that I would say having more RAM would make a difference. So if I know a thing or two about animation, this should be somewhat faster than this just because you have more RAM, and animation likes to chew on RAM. So we will see. Maybe even RAM doesn't even matter and M4 would still be faster. And Windows machine, just what are you doing? Like, do you need help? Guys, send help. So the total of frames that we have for each animation is 250. The same animation, 250, and I was right. The M1 Max now finished the whole 250 frames, and the average was 0.96. That means it took less than 1 second for each frame to be rendered throughout a whole sequence of 250, which 250 frames equals 10 seconds usually. Here we are at 172 frames, and so far the average that I am looking at is around 1.88. And the reason for that is when you have more RAM in general, the frames can have a faster sequence, so to speak. So think about it, where the machine can render more than 1 frame at a time. So here your average is, let's say, 1.88, and here your average is 0.96. 9 multiplied by 2, that is 18, so 1.8, and here you have 1.8. Basically what is happening, because you have more RAM, this is literally doing 2 frames at the speed of where the M4 is doing 1 frame. This does not has to do a lot with CPU itself or the GPU. It has to do more with having enough RAM or enough room for the software actually to take advantage of it. And with that being said, here we have 10 frames left, and then after we get the average of frames here, I will do a little bit of math, and then we will figure out what is the exact time for each one to be done. However, it's obvious that this was faster, but just in case. So now we are going to do some math, and while we are doing the math, by the way, the Windows machine is still on their project and it's not done yet. It's saying there is 20 minutes left. Well, that's fine. Anyway, so here we have 0.96 times 250. So 250 is going to be our frames. So we have 250 frames, and then the 0.96, that's going to be less than 1. 1 multiplied by 250 equals 250, and since we have 0.96, that's basically minus 10%, which means this should be 240. So 0.96, 240, and then you convert 240 to how many it is equal in minutes. So basically 240 divided by 60, that would give us how many minutes we have. But I am not concerned about the minutes right now, because what I want to figure out which one is faster. So with that being said, the second one, 1.7 times 250, that's 425. And the reason I know this because I do a lot of functions and a lot of discrete mathematics. So thank you, computer science, I guess. So 1.7 times 250, that's 425. However, let me double check because I could be wrong. I might be good at math, but I am not a human calculator. So let's see. 1.7 times 250. And that is indeed 425. And then 425, if we want, to figure that out in minutes, that would be divided by 60 as well, and then it will give us the minute. The reason I am not giving the minutes right now or not calculating it, what I am trying to show you is we have 240 and we have 425. 240 multiplied by 2, that's going to be 480. And 480 is very close to 425. So my theory, where having more RAM basically give you the ability to render 2 frames at a time, or at least a frame and a half at one time, is actually correct. And that was what happening with the M1 Max, where it was actually doing almost 2 frames a second, where the M4 did not. So with that, this was faster than that only in this test, because in terms of animation you need more RAM. So I am sure if we had more RAM on the M4, the base model, we will be getting results that is better than that. Now let's do more math, and then let's just divide what we have. So we have 425. That's going to equal to 7.0 something, probably 7.03 if my mental math is correct. But in terms of 480 divided by 60, that is easy, because 4 times 60 is actually 240, or 4 times 6 is 24, and then you add a 0, then you get 240. Which means the M1 Max was done in 4 minutes, and then the MacBook Air was done in roughly 7 minutes. And between all of these tests, I would say -10 for Windows, that was a disaster, +3 for M4, and a +1 for the M1 Max. The M1 Max, the only reason it did well in the last test is because it had more RAM, and the math made sense in that regard. And I will recommend the base model. My only thing that I would say that you should upgrade is the storage. And the base model, the base model, no need even to go to the 10 cores. You can if you want to, but the base model, that will be more than enough for you with a Blender. Apple, when they presented one of the M chips and the song was Mr. Impossible, that song was there for a reason. And that concludes my test, but holy cow.